The Plant Based World Expo wrapped up just a few days ago in New York City. What were some of the key trends and themes? Well, stay tuned as I share my thoughts on the world of plant-based. Hi everyone, Douglas Sabo here at Green Living Doug across social media channels. Welcome to my Sustainable Life channel here on YouTube. Welcome back to my kitchen for those of you who tuned in 2 weeks ago. Broadcast live from the kitchen as I previewed the Plant Based World Expo. Well, 2 weeks later now, the event has taken place. I had the honor and opportunity to participate. And what I wanted to do was share with you some of the key trends and themes that I heard from this event. If you do like this type of content, please like and subscribe to this channel. Also, I would love to hear from you in the comments about any take that you may have on any of the trends or themes that I share today, or anything else that you may want to share about the plant-based food ecosystem. Okay, first, of course, I'd talk about the food itself. I think one big theme around the food itself was the diversification. We are past the last year or the year before, which was all about burgers and nuggets. And this year, so much more diversification in the plant-based food offerings that are out there. Mushroom options, cheese options. I think every other booth felt like they had a great plant-based cheese option now available. But really, even beyond those foods, a lot of focus on snacks, convenience foods, bakery. Had a chance to talk to a number of folks in that space. And then just convenience foods overall. Two of my favorite, of course, were the marshmallows. Hi, Dandies. Thank you for being there. The plant-based marshmallows, as well as the health supplement space. So some great smoothies, plant-based smoothies for those who may be looking for that pre or post workout. So I do invite you. I had a chance to talk to nearly 20 different innovators throughout the event, posted all of these different very short vignettes to the channel. So please go to the video section and you will find them and really hear about some longtime companies as well as some up-and-comers in this space. So I invite you to check that out. Having said that about the food itself and the diversification, I wanted to talk bigger picture for a moment, because there was a lot of talk about the bigger picture of the plant-based food ecosystem. In particular, a big theme around this being an inflection point. We know that this industry had a lot of moments in the spotlight, particularly during the pandemic, that there was moments of growth and expansion. And more recently, the headlines have gone a little bit the other direction. And so there was a sense of humility, of a need to be humble as an entire sector, that we are now in this phase that might be post-boom, post-burger boom. And so that was an overarching feel throughout the event, was what are the implications of the moment that we're in? So for a couple of themes that I want to talk about, first, let me talk about the headwinds, because there was real candid and honest conversations about the headwinds that this industry faces. Some of the headwinds that came up routinely, one, consumer confusion about what does it mean to actually be plant-based. I think a lot of confusion around labels and what exactly that means versus any other label that might be added to different products. There's concerns and headwinds around the consumer perceptions of, and I keep using these air quotes, fake meat. And so that was a common one. How do we address the concern around the consumer perceptions? Certainly been some negative media headlines, either brands pulling back, closing retail locations for those who may have be in that space, and overall reflection that these are, and I'm using a bit of a quote here, the treacherous waters of the food industry. And these are real challenges. There was a recognition that this sector, unlike some of the other sectors, does not have a version of the checkoff programs. These are the programs, at least here in the United States, programs where farmers contribute into central funds and that go into marketing of entire categories of food. So if you think about the Got Milk campaigns, the beef, it's what's for dinner campaigns, those are funded by those types of programs, and there does not exist an equivalent for plant-based foods. So that's a struggle. A number of people pointed to the Stanford University study that came out that said there's 800 times more public funding going into the animal agriculture space than into the plant-based food space. So that's a headwind. And also, for those who are certainly needing to rely on investors and investment capital, there's lower confidence, according to a couple of the companies that are very in tune with the investor space, lower confidence among investors about this entire category. And there needs to be much more shift in mindset toward profitability and growth. So no lack of headwinds at this space. But it wasn't all moments of introspection and doom and gloom. A lot of focus on, well, what are the opportunities? So I'm going to walk through a few of the opportunities that I kept hearing as the event unfolded. So one opportunity is the customer, in particular the flexitarian customer. There was a more than probably there had been in the past, a recognition that the vegetarian consumer, self-identified consumer, is about 4% of the US population. The vegan consumer is about 1%. So that is 95% of the US population that are neither vegan nor vegetarian. But a significant portion of that other 95% is open to trying and being involved and being maybe more plant forward. There was an estimate that around 70%, or actually a study, not just an estimate, a study that said about 70% of the US population consumes plant-based food. And we don't mean they buy vegetables and eat a salad. I mean they actually have some of the items that I was talking about early. And a recognition that flexitarian audience, that 70%, should be the target. The vegans will find their own way to this food and these options. This is a large population, the flexitarian population. It's a population that's curious about the category, but there's not one single plant-based or plant-interested consumer, not one single flexitarian. This is a category, according to some, that talked about this group. They can be fickle. This could be buying and consuming plant-based one time a week, one time a day, one time a week, one time a month. So there's a recognition that we need deeper segmentation about the flexitarian audience and consumers, and those consumers, a recognition that in many cases health is the number one driver for being interested in consuming more plant-based. So there's been a push for what was called cleaner labels on the plant-based foods, so perhaps ingredient reductions, more simpler options that are in the marketplace. Another driver that was recognized for the flexitarian consumer is diets and allergies. That often is an entry point to plant-based options. If you think about those, particularly looking at plant-based milks and products like that often it is lactose issues that bring that consumer there. Also, there certainly are a percentage of consumers who are concerned about environmental impacts of food, around animal welfare issues and others. And overall, for this flexitarian audience, speak to their hearts and minds, feed the curiosity, recognize that the drivers of interest in some of these foods are taste, convenience, the economics, and health. So 4 items to remember. But also recognize that consumers and actually retailers as well need more education about what is plant-based, what does it mean, what are the advantages, and why is this something to give a try. Second opportunity side is about the channel. And specifically, not necessarily the retail channel, but the food service channel. Retail, many commented on, retail is challenging and retail sales of plant-based are relatively flat. However, a bright moment in the how are sales going space is food service. Food service has been seen as a bright spot. The plant-based and food service grew nearly 8% year over year from 2021 to 2022, according to a number of research studies. So this is a good place to look at. But what do I mean by food service for those who may not be as familiar? I mean, here we're talking about a number of restaurants, higher ed dining halls, for example, corporate cafeterias. Think about these places where food is served to the public that is not a grocery retail or an e-commerce channel. So food service overall is huge and it's growing. More and more US consumers are actually consuming more percentage of their diet in food service situations and not necessarily from grocery store purchases. So it is also seen as a great opportunity to introduce plant-based food offerings to the curious. because it doesn't require a grocery purchase, a whole meal investment to try it, and perhaps a meal that the family is not interested in, but it allows an individual to pick one item on a menu and give that a try. So it's a great place to experiment. Also, a number of food service companies, together with those university dining halls, have done a lot of experimentation. So it's a great channel for experimentation. One in particular is in the news recently for doing this, an approach called default veg process, where they actually, instead of having to ask, as is often the case in the past, having to ask for, hey, is there a vegetarian or a plant-based option? Instead, you actually had to ask for the animal option. And what this resulted in was an 81% uptake rate for the plant-based option versus a 30% when it has been presented in a different way. This food service is also a great way to reach the Gen Z consumer, whether that's Gen Z entering the workforce or Gen Z in higher education. So another great way to reach an audience that is much more, is more open to the plant-based food options and being plant-forward. Another part of the food service is corporate dining, especially the companies who are setting environmental reduction goals and climate targets, and including their food service as part of their measurement. So you have a lot of companies who are signing up for things like the Cool Food Pledge and committing to reduce the footprint of their food service. So again, opportunity number 2 is looking at this channel, the food service channel. It's a hard channel, according to a number of the food service companies that were there, and you have to be really ready to deliver if you're going to enter food service, and that can be a challenge. But that was highlighted time and time again. Next area of opportunity, the categories and products. It's about the categories and products. A number of speakers talked about the need for plant-based to be in every category. Don't just be in burgers, don't just be in the nugget category, but we need plant-based across all of these different categories, and we have to show up with trusted brands. We have to show up regularly and frequently with high quality, high taste products, and so that's key, but be in all these different categories. Also, a few of the plant-based companies said, you know what, we have to be smarter about the SKUs that we're bringing, the products that we're bringing forward. We need to focus on profitable SKUs, and our assortments may be smaller. We may not have as many options, but what options we do bring to the marketplace, whether it is in retail, food service, or others, it may be reduced in assortment, and we may need to do a lot more testing in the market before it enters the marketplace. And we also, to collectively, the plant-based food ecosystem needs to broaden the pie and not be focused on increasing the competition over the existing sliver of the pie. So we need more categories, more brands there. And then the last opportunity that was talked about a lot was partnerships. Partnerships and more brands and more companies. There felt to be a recognition that the plant-based food companies need to partner more with a broader set of entities in the overall food space. This might mean getting more food brands, including traditional companies, traditional protein companies, getting more of them into the space. I know a number have introduced plant-based offerings into their assortments, but an opportunity to expand that. One company in particular said, we have to include as many honorable partners as possible in this. And we need to think broadly and not necessarily go after the companies that have been traditionally in this space. And so those were, I think, some of the themes on the opportunity side. So again, a lot of inflection, a lot of moments of humility around the state of the plant-based ecosystem, but also a number of opportunities, whether that's better targeting of the flexitarian customer, looking even more at the food service channel as a great opportunity to grow, more opportunity in the categories and products that are being brought to market and being smarter about them, more profitable focused, and then finally, thinking more holistically and really having a partnership mindset that we need more. More players in this space and more collaboration. Let's grow the overall pie, not fight over the existing sliver. So anyway, those were my quick themes and thoughts around the Plant Based World Expo, the joint effort between the Plant Based World Expo entity as well as the Plant Based Foods Association. So Thank you to them both for welcoming me to the event. Had a great time covering it. I do, again, invite you to take a look in the video section about the one-on-one interviews and conversations and features on nearly 20 of the brands that were there in person and showing their products. So really encourage you to check them out. And again, if you like this content and you want to stay tuned, whether it's on the plant-based topic or other topics of sustainable living that I'll continue to cover, please like and subscribe, and really do take a moment in the comments and share your thoughts and reflections on anything I've just shared from these themes or anything else that you have to share around the plant-based food system. So with that, again, I'm Douglas Sabo, Green Living Doug, across social media channels. Thank you for tuning in, and I look forward to speaking with you next time.